Homeless girl gave her only bread to a hungry dog. What happened next made everyone cry. New York City trembled under the relentless assault of a fierce storm. The streets, usually bustling with life, had turned into turbulent rivers carrying the debris of an overwhelmed metropolis. In the midst of this chaos, a small figure huddled under the tattered awning of an abandoned store, desperately seeking shelter from the fury of the elements. It was Hope, a 6-year-old girl whose name seemed a cruel irony given her circumstances. Her hair, black as the night that enveloped her, clung to her wet face, and her large dark eyes scanned the darkness with a mixture of fear and determination. The clothes she wore, too thin to protect her from the cold, stuck to her trembling body like a second skin. Hope hadn't always been alone. Just a few months ago she had a home, a family, a place to belong. But fate, with its capricious hand, had torn all that from her life, leaving her adrift in the unforgiving streets of the big city. Now, her only company was the roar of thunder and the relentless patter of rain against the pavement. With trembling hands, Hope rummaged through the debris around her, searching for something, anything that could quiet the hunger gnawing at her stomach. Her fingers, numb from the cold, brushed against something she didn't expect to find, a piece of bread. It was hard and slightly moldy, but to her, at that moment, it was an invaluable treasure. Just as she was about to bring it to her mouth, a movement in the shadows caught her attention. From the darkness emerged a canine figure, as thin and helpless as herself. It was a German shepherd, once majestic, now reduced to little more than skin and bones. Its eyes, however, shone with an intelligence and kindness that touched Hope's heart. The dog approached cautiously, its tail wagging weakly in a gesture of hope. Hope looked at the bread in her hand and then at the dog, struggling internally. Her stomach growled, demanding food, but something stronger than hunger stirred within her. With a decision that defied her young age, she broke the bread in half and extended a piece toward the animal. "Here, friend," she whispered hoarsely. "Looks like we both need a little help tonight." The dog sniffed the offering cautiously before gently accepting it from Hope's hand. As it ate, the girl couldn't help but notice the scars that crossed the animal's fur, silent witnesses to a life as hard as her own. "I'll call you Brave," Hope decided, feeling the name fit perfectly with the dog's resilient spirit. "Because that's what you are, right? A brave survivor like me." Brave, as if understanding the meaning of her words, moved closer to her, offering the warmth of his body as gratitude. Together, girl and dog huddled under the awning, finding comfort in each other's presence, while the storm continued to rage around them. Hours passed and the rain finally began to ease. Dawn was approaching, tinting the sky with a pearly gray that promised a new day. Hope, drowsy from exhaustion and cold, startled awake when she felt Brave tense beside her. A few meters away, a male figure was silhouetted against the dim dawn light. The man, disheveled and with an unsettling gaze, stared fixedly at the girl and the dog. He took a step toward them, and Hope felt fear freeze the blood in her veins. Brave, however, didn't hesitate for an instant. Despite his weakness, he stood up, placing himself firmly between Hope and the stranger. A low, threatening growl emerged from his throat, and his stance, though shaky, was unequivocally protective. The man, surprised by the animal's ferocity, took a step back. Brave seized that moment of doubt to bark with all his might, a sound that resonated in the empty street like a cry of defiance. The stranger, assessing the situation, decided it wasn't worth the risk and quickly retreated, disappearing among the shadows of the buildings. Hope, her heart beating wildly, hugged Brave tightly. "Thank you," she whispered through tears of relief and gratitude. "You saved me." The dog relaxed under her embrace, turning to gently lick the girl's cheek. In that moment, something changed in Hope's heart. She was no longer alone in the world. Now she had a protector, a friend. As the sun began to peek timidly through the clouds, illuminating the wet streets of the city, Hope and Brave left their makeshift shelter. The girl didn't know what the future held for them, but for the first time in a long time, she felt a spark of hope in her heart. They walked together through the streets that were beginning to come to life, Hope with one hand resting on Brave's back, seeking the warmth and security her new friend provided. Early morning passers-by looked at them with a mixture of curiosity and pity, but none stopped to help. It was then that fate, which had been so cruel the night before, decided to smile upon them. A middle-aged woman with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes was leaving a bakery when her gaze met Hope's. Something about the image of the disheveled girl and the emaciated dog touched a sensitive chord in her heart. "Are you all right, little one?" asked the woman, approaching cautiously. Hope, accustomed to adults' indifference, remained silent for a moment. Brave, however, seemed to sense the kindness in the woman's voice and wagged his tail slightly. "We're hungry," Hope finally managed to say, her voice barely a whisper. The woman, who introduced herself as Sarah, didn't need to hear more. With a decision that surprised even herself, she took Hope's hand and gestured for Brave to follow them. "Come with me," she said with a warm smile. "I know a place where you can be safe and get something to eat." As they walked through the now sunlit streets, Hope felt a mix of emotions. Fear and distrust fought against hope and the yearning for safety. Brave, faithful by her side, seemed to share her caution but also her willingness to trust this unexpected benefactor. Sarah guided them through the city, away from the rougher neighborhoods and toward a quieter area. Finally, they stopped in front of a welcoming building with a sign that read, "St. Michael's Home, Orphanage and Shelter." "You'll be safe here," Sarah explained gently. "They'll give you food, a place to sleep, and take care of you both." Hope looked at the building with a mixture of longing and fear. Could this be the end of her days on the street? A new beginning for her and Brave. With her heart full of uncertainty but also a timid hope, Hope squeezed Sarah's hand and, with Brave by her side, took the first step toward what could be the beginning of a new life. St. Michael's Home stood like a beacon of hope in the midst of bustling New York City. Its walls, painted in a warm cream color, contrasted with the gray of the surrounding asphalt. Hope, still clutching Sarah's hand, observed the building with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Brave, faithful by her side, sniffed the air cautiously. As they crossed the threshold, they were greeted by Sister Mary, a nun with a kindly face and bright eyes. Her black habit swayed gently as she approached them with a welcoming smile. "Welcome to St. Michael's Home," she greeted in a melodious voice. Her gaze fell first on Hope, noting her wet clothes and disheveled appearance, and then on Brave, whose dirty fur and visible ribs spoke of difficult days on the street. Sarah briefly explained the situation, and Sister Mary nodded with understanding. "You'll find shelter and care here," she assured, addressing Hope. "And don't worry about your furry friend, there's room for him too." These words relieved the tension in Hope's shoulders. The idea of separating from Brave was unbearable. The dog had become her only family on the streets. Sister Mary guided them through bright hallways until they reached a small infirmary. There, a motherly-looking doctor examined them both. While tending to Hope's scratches and bruises, the girl couldn't help but notice how Brave remained alert, his eyes following every movement in the room. "You're a very brave girl," commented the doctor, while applying ointment to a cut on Hope's arm. "And you have a very loyal friend here." Hope nodded, a small smile forming on her lips. "His name is Brave," she murmured, her voice still hoarse from lack of use. After the medical checkup, Sister Mary led them to a cozy dining room. The aroma of hot soup and freshly baked bread made Hope's stomach growl audibly. They sat at a secluded table, and soon they were served steaming bowls of soup and generous pieces of bread. Hope ate eagerly, savoring each spoonful as if it were her last. Beside her, Brave devoured his own portion of dog food provided by the orphanage staff. For the first time in weeks, both ate until they were satisfied. With her stomach full and body tired, Hope began to feel the weight of exhaustion. Sister Mary, noticing her heavy eyelids, guided them to a small room in the dormitory wing. "This will be your space for now," explained the nun, showing her a single bed with clean sheets and a soft blanket. On the floor, next to the bed, they had placed a new, cozy dog bed. Hope looked at the room in amazement. After weeks of sleeping in alleys and under awnings, this seemed like a palace. However, when Sister Mary prepared to leave, a sudden panic seized the girl. Can I sleep with Brave?" she asked timidly, her voice barely a whisper. Sister Mary looked at her with understanding. "Of course, dear. I understand you've been through a lot together. Brave can sleep with you if that makes you feel safer." With those reassuring words, Hope curled up in bed, and Brave jumped up beside her, settling protectively next to her. For the first time in a long time, both fell into a deep, restful sleep. However, peace didn't last long. In the middle of the night, Hope woke up screaming, trapped in the clutches of a nightmare. In her dream, The threatening man from the night before chased her through dark, endless streets. Brave, alerted by her distress, pressed close to her, gently licking her face to calm her. Sister Mary came running, alarmed by the screams. She found Hope trembling, clinging to Brave's neck as if he were a lifeline. "It's okay, little one," murmured the nun, sitting on the edge of the bed and gently stroking Hope's hair. "You're safe here. No one can hurt you." Gradually, Hope's sobs calmed, but she refused to let go of Brave. The dog, for his part, remained steadfast, his constant presence offering silent comfort. "Would you like to tell me about your nightmare?" Sister Mary asked gently. Hope shook her head, burying her face in Brave's fur. The nun didn't insist, understanding that trust would take time. "That's okay, you don't have to talk if you don't want to," she assured. "But remember, we're here to help you. When you're ready, we'll be here to listen." The following days passed in a quiet routine. Hope and Brave gradually adapted to life at the orphanage. The girl began attending classes with the other children, though at first she remained quiet and distant. Brave, for his part, became a sort of orphanage mascot, his constant and protective presence winning everyone's affection. However, the nights remained challenging. Nightmares continued to torment Hope, and Brave became her nocturnal guardian, always alert and ready to comfort her. One afternoon, while Hope was playing in the courtyard with Brave, a young couple arrived at the orphanage. Emily and James Thompson, a childless couple, had come with the intention of adopting. As they toured the facilities with Sister Mary, their attention was drawn to the image of the small girl and her faithful canine companion. "Who is that girl?" asked Emily, her heart moved by the scene. Sister Mary briefly told them Hope and Brave's story, how they had arrived together at the orphanage and the strong bond they shared. "She's been through a lot," explained the nun. "The nightmares are frequent, and Brave is her only source of comfort and security." Emily and James exchanged a look, a silent conversation passing between them. Something about Hope's story and Brave's dedication had touched their hearts. "Could we meet her?" asked James, his voice filled with emotion. Sister Mary nodded but warned them, "Have patience. She's suffered a lot and has trouble trusting. And remember, Brave is part of the package. Those two are inseparable." As the couple slowly approached Hope and Brave, the girl looked at them with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. Brave, sensing his small friend's apprehension, positioned himself protectively in front of her. Emily knelt at a respectful distance, her voice soft and warm when she spoke. "Hello, Hope, my name is Emily and this is my husband, James. We were wondering if you'd like to play with us." Hope looked at Sister Mary, seeking reassurance. The nun nodded with an encouraging smile. Slowly, the girl took a step forward, her hand still buried in Brave's fur. "Can Brave play too?" she asked in a barely audible voice. "Of course," replied James with a warm smile. "He seems like a very special dog." And so, under the afternoon sun, Hope, Brave, Emily and James began to play together. It was a small step, but perhaps the beginning of something new and beautiful. As Hope's laughter, timid at first but growing more confident, filled the air, a spark of hope shone in everyone's eyes. Hope and Brave's life was about to take an unexpected turn, but the path to true trust and love was still full of challenges to overcome. The days at St. Michael's home passed by, each bringing small changes to Hope and Brave's life. The daily routine, once so strange to both, began to feel like a blanket of security. Mornings started with breakfast in the communal dining room, followed by classes for Hope and courtyard walks for Brave, always under the watchful eye of the orphanage staff. Emily and James continued visiting regularly, their presence gradually becoming a welcome constant in Hope's life. The girl, though still cautious, was beginning to open up little by little. Her smiles, once so rare, became more frequent in the couple's presence. One afternoon, while playing in the courtyard, Emily noticed Hope clutching a worn handkerchief tightly. "That's a very pretty handkerchief," Emily commented softly. "Does it have special meaning for you?" Hope looked at the handkerchief, her fingers caressing the worn fabric. For a moment, she seemed lost in thought. "It was my mum's," she finally whispered. It's all I have left of her." Emily felt her heart constrict at the revelation. Gently, she moved closer to Hope and sat beside her. "It must be very important to you," she said. "Would you like to tell me more about your mom?" For an instant, fear crossed Hope's eyes. Brave, sensing her unease, approached and rested his head in her lap. This simple gesture seemed to give her the courage she needed. She smelled like flowers, Hope began, her voice barely audible. And she used to sing to me every night. As Hope spoke, Emily listened attentively, her heart full of compassion for the pain this little one had endured. James, who had maintained a respectful distance, slowly approached and joined them, his silent presence offering support. "Hope," said Emily tenderly, "I want you to know that this handkerchief will always be yours. It's a precious memory of your mom, and no one will ever take it from you." Emily's words touched something deep in Hope. For the first time since arriving at the orphanage, the girl allowed herself to cry openly, releasing the pain she had kept locked inside for so long. Emily hugged her gently, while James placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. Brave, faithful as always, stayed close, his presence a constant source of comfort. This moment marked a turning point in Hope's relationship with the couple. Trust, that delicate flower that had begun to sprout, started to bloom more strongly. As they spent more time together, Emily and James fell more and more in love with the idea of making Hope part of their family. However, they were aware of the challenges they would face. Hope's emotional scars were deep, and her bond with Brave was unbreakable. One night, while having dinner in their apartment after another visit to the orphanage, Emily and James had a crucial conversation. "James," Emily began, her voice filled with emotion, "I think it's time to take the next step. I want us to adopt Hope." James nodded, a warm smile lighting up his face. "I've been thinking about it too. That girl has captured our hearts, but we have to consider Brave," Emily completed, knowing well her husband's thoughts. "Exactly," James confirmed. "That dog is more than a pet to Hope. He's her protector, her confidant. We can't separate them." Emily took her husband's hand, her eyes shining with determination. "Then we won't. We'll adopt them both. Our family will have 4 members, not 3. Decision made, Emily and James embarked on the adoption process. They filled out forms, underwent interviews, and prepared their home to receive not just a girl, but also a large dog. Meanwhile, at the orphanage, Hope continued struggling with her inner demons. Although the nightmares were less frequent, there were still nights when she woke up screaming, the terror of her past haunting her dreams. One such night, Sister Mary came to her room, alerted by the screams. She found Hope curled up in a corner of the bed, Brave by her side, licking her face in an attempt to calm her. "Hope, my child," Sister Mary called softly, approaching carefully. "You're safe here, no one can hurt you." The girl looked up, her eyes large and frightened, fixed on the nun. He was here," she whispered. "The bad man from the street." Sister Mary sat on the edge of the bed, extending a hand toward Hope. "It was just a dream, little one. That man can't reach you here." Gradually, Hope calmed down. Brave, always attentive, stayed pressed against her, his constant presence acting as an anchor to reality. "Sister Mary," Hope said after a moment, her voice barely audible, "do you think I'll ever stop being afraid?" The question, so innocent yet so profound, touched the nun's heart. "Oh, my child," she responded tenderly, "fear doesn't disappear overnight. But with time, with love and support, it becomes smaller, more manageable, and one day you'll realize you're stronger than your fear." These words seemed to resonate with Hope. She remained thoughtful for a moment, absently stroking Brave's fur. "Emily and James," she began hesitantly, do you think they really want me?" Sister Mary smiled warmly. "Oh, Hope, I'm sure they love you very much. I've seen them, you know, the way they look at you, how they interact with you and Brave. That's the kind of love that forms families." The idea of a family, a concept that had become distant and painful for Hope, began to take on a new shape in her mind. It was no longer just a bittersweet memory of what she had lost, but a possibility of what she could have. "And if they want me to go with them?" Hope asked, fear and hope mixing in her voice. "What will happen to Brave?" "I'm sure Emily and James understand how important Brave is to you," Sister Mary responded. "They've seen how close you are. I don't think they would ever consider separating you." These words seemed to relieve a worry Hope didn't know she had. She visibly relaxed, leaning against Brave. "Do you think I could be happy with them?" she finally asked, her voice filled with a vulnerability she rarely showed. Sister Mary took Hope's small hand in hers. "I think, my dear child, that you have the chance to be very happy. Emily and James have so much love to give, and you have a huge heart capable of loving deeply. With Brave by your side and a family that loves you, You can build a life full of joy and security." Hope nodded slowly, processing the nun's words. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to imagine a different future, one filled with possibilities and love. As Sister Mary tucked her back in, Hope curled up next to Brave, her faithful guardian. Sleep came more easily this time, and while challenges remained, a new hope began to shine on the horizon. Hope's life was about to take a significant turn, and though the path wouldn't be easy, she would no longer be alone to walk it. With Brave by her side and the love of a new family on the horizon, the future, for the first time in a long time, seemed promising. The morning sun filtered through the windows of St. Michael's home, bathing the hallways in a golden warm light. Hope woke up slowly, her eyes adjusting to the brightness of the new day. Beside her, Brave stretched lazily, his tail thumping softly against the bed in a comforting rhythm. The morning routine at the orphanage began as usual, breakfast in the communal dining room, followed by classes for the children. However, there was a different energy in the air, an anticipation that Hope could feel but not fully understand. While sitting at her desk, trying to concentrate on the math lesson, she noticed Sister Mary enter the classroom and give a discreet signal to the teacher. Both exchanged words in low voices, and then the nun approached Hope with a warm smile. "Hope, dear," she said softly, "could you come with me for a moment? There's something important I need to talk to you about." With her heart beating a little faster, Hope followed Sister Mary out of the classroom. Brave, who always seemed to know when he was needed, appeared from nowhere and walked alongside them, his presence a constant source of comfort for the girl. Sister Mary guided them to her office, a cozy space filled with books and with a large window overlooking the orphanage garden. She invited Hope to sit in a chair in front of her desk, while Brave settled at her feet. "Hope," the nun began, her voice soft but full of emotion, "I have very important news for you. Emily and James have completed all the necessary paperwork and they want to adopt you." The news fell over Hope like a wave, leaving her momentarily speechless. Her mind filled with a whirlwind of emotions: joy, fear, hope, anxiety. "Does that mean I'll have a family again?" she finally asked, her voice barely a whisper. Sister Mary nodded, her eyes shining with contained tears. "Yes, my child. A family that loves you very much and is eager to give you a home." Hope looked down at Brave, who was watching her with his intelligent eyes full of devotion. "And Brave?" she asked, fear evident in her voice. Sister Mary's smile widened. "Emily and James understand how important Brave is to you. They want to adopt you both. You'll be a complete family." A sob of relief escaped Hope's lips. She leaned down to hug Brave, burying her face in the dog's fur as tears began to flow freely. "It's okay to cry, Hope," said Sister Mary gently, walking around the desk to kneel beside the girl. "These are tears of joy and change. It's normal to feel many things at once." After a few moments, Hope calmed down enough to ask the question burning in her mind. When will I go with them?" "Emily and James will come this afternoon," Sister Mary responded. "They want to talk to you, explain everything, and answer any questions you might have. If you feel comfortable and ready, you could go with them today. But if you need more time, they'll understand." The idea of leaving that same day filled Hope with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. It was a huge change, a leap into the unknown, but at the same time she felt she was ready to take that step. The rest of the day passed in a blur of activity. Hope, with the help of Sister Mary and other nuns, began packing her few belongings. Each object she put in her small suitcase was a reminder of her life at the orphanage. The books she had read, the drawings she had made, the collar they had given to Brave. When afternoon came, bringing Emily and James with it, Hope was sitting in the courtyard, her suitcase beside her and Brave lying at her feet. As she saw the couple approach, she felt a knot in her stomach, but also a spark of excitement. Emily and James sat beside her, their faces lit up with warm and loving smiles. "Hello, Hope," Emily greeted softly. "How are you feeling?" Hope played nervously with the hem of her dress. "I'm a little scared," she admitted, "but also happy." James nodded understandingly. "It's normal to feel that way. It's a big change. But we want you to know that we'll go at your pace. If you need more time, we'll understand. And Brave will come with us, of course," Emily added, extending a hand to pet the dog. "We've already prepared a space for him at home." These words seemed to relieve much of the tension in Hope. Her gaze alternated between Emily, James, and Brave, and for the first time in a long time, she felt the pieces of her life beginning to fit together. I think I'm ready to go with you," she finally said, her voice small but firm. The joy on Emily and James's faces was palpable. Carefully, as if afraid Hope might break, they hugged her. It was a warm embrace, full of promises of love and security. The goodbyes at the orphanage were bittersweet. Sister Mary hugged Hope tightly, whispering words of encouragement and blessings. The other children, some crying, others smiling, said goodbye to her and Brave. As they walked toward Emily and James's car, Hope stopped for a moment to look back. St. Michael's home, which had been her refuge for the past few months, now seemed smaller, more distant. But instead of sadness, she felt a strange mixture of gratitude and anticipation. The car ride to her new home was a surreal experience for Hope. Sitting in the back seat with Brave beside her, she watched as the streets of New York City passed before her eyes. Each turn, each new street, took her further from her past and closer to her future. Emily and James filled the journey with light conversation, telling Hope about the neighborhood where they lived, the school she would attend, and the nearby parks where Brave could run and play. They tried to maintain a cheerful and comforting tone, aware of the magnitude of the change Hope was experiencing. Finally, after what seemed like both an instant and an eternity, the car stopped in front of a welcoming apartment building. "We're here," James announced with a smile, turning off the engine. Hope looked out the window, her large, curious eyes absorbing every detail. The building was a warm terracotta color, with balconies full of plants and flowers. At the entrance, a small fountain bubbled cheerfully. Carefully, as if stepping on sacred ground, Hope got out of the car, Brave following close behind. Emily took her small suitcase, while James carried Brave's bed and toys. "Welcome home, Hope," said Emily softly, extending her free hand toward the girl. Hope looked at the extended hand for a moment, then at Brave, who was wagging his tail enthusiastically, and finally at James, who smiled at her warmly. With a deep breath, she took Emily's hand. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice full of emotion. As they climbed the stairs to their new home, Hope felt she was taking the first steps in a new chapter of her life. The future, which had once seemed so dark and uncertain, now shone with possibilities. With Brave by her side and the love of her new family surrounding her, Hope allowed herself, for the first time in a long time, to feel true hope. The apartment door opened, revealing a warm and welcoming space. Hope stepped forward, entering not just a new house, but a new life. The path ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges and adjustments, but she wouldn't be alone to face them. With each step, with each moment, Hope began to write a new chapter in her story, one filled with love, security, and above all, hope. The first rays of sun crept through the curtains of Hope's room, painting the walls a soft golden color. The girl woke up slowly, blinking in confusion for a moment at not recognizing her surroundings. Then the events of the previous day came back to her memory. The adoption, the car ride, the arrival at her new home. Brave, lying at the foot of the bed, raised his head when he felt Hope's movement. His eyes, full of loyalty and affection, met the girl's, offering her a sense of familiarity in this new environment. "Good morning, Brave," whispered Hope, extending a hand to pet her faithful friend's soft fur. "We're home, aren't we?" As if answering her question, a soft knock sounded at the door. Emily's warm voice was heard from the other side. "Hope, sweetie, are you awake? Breakfast is ready." With a bit of nervousness, Hope got out of bed and, with Brave following close behind, opened the door. Emily was there with a kind smile on her face. "Good morning, my girl," Emily greeted, resisting the urge to hug Hope, aware that the girl still needed time to adapt. "Did you sleep well?" Hope nodded shyly. "Yes, thank you," she responded in a low voice. "I'm glad," said Emily. "Come on, James is making pancakes. They're his specialty." Breakfast passed in a warm but slightly tense atmosphere. James made an effort to create fun shapes with the pancakes, managing to draw some shy smiles from Hope. Brave, for his part, enjoyed his own breakfast in a corner of the kitchen, his presence a constant source of comfort for the girl. After breakfast, Emily and James gave Hope a tour of the apartment. They showed her every room, explaining that she could feel free to explore and use the common spaces. When they reached her room, Hope noticed something she hadn't seen the night before. a new desk with art supplies. "Sister Mary told us you like to draw," James explained with a smile. "We thought you might like to have your own space to create." Hope's eyes lit up at the sight of the colored pencils, markers, and drawing paper. "Thank you," she murmured, gently touching the materials as if they were treasure. As the days passed, Hope began to establish a routine in her new home. Mornings were filled with family breakfasts and walks with Brave in the nearby park. She spent afternoons on her online classes, as Emily and James had decided to give her time to adapt before sending her to a traditional school. However, nights remained challenging. Although the nightmares were less frequent, there were still moments when Hope would wake up startled, her heart beating fast and fear taking over. In those moments, Brave was always there, offering his comforting presence. One particularly difficult night, Hope's sobs woke Emily and James. Carefully, they approached her room, finding the girl curled up in a corner of the bed, hugging Brave tightly. "Hope, sweetie," Emily called softly, approaching cautiously. "Is everything all right?" The girl looked up, her large, frightened eyes shining with unshed tears. I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to wake you." James sat on the edge of the bed, his voice soft and reassuring. "You don't have to apologize, little one. We're here for you whenever you need us." Gradually, with soft words and caring gestures, Emily and James managed to calm Hope. They talked to her about the nightmares, explaining that it was normal to have them after difficult experiences, but that with time and love, they would become less frequent. "You know what helps me when I'm scared?" asked James, his voice full of affection. "Thinking about the good things I have in my life. Would you like to try it together?" Hope nodded timidly. So in the dimness of the room, they began to list the things they were grateful for. Brave, their new home, James's pancakes, Emily's hugs, the colored pencils. As the list grew, Hope felt the fear dissipating, replaced by a warm feeling of gratitude and belonging. That night marked a turning point in her relationship with Emily and James. Little by little, she began to see them not just as her caregivers, but as figures she could trust and lean on. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. With each passing day, Hope felt more comfortable in her new home. Her drawings, which at first were full of shadows and solitary figures, began to fill with bright colors and happy family scenes. One Saturday morning, while Emily was organizing some old papers, Hope found her looking at a photograph with nostalgia. "What's that, Emily?" she asked curiously. Emily invited her to sit beside her and showed her the photograph. In it, a young couple smiled at the camera, standing in front of a building that Hope vaguely recognized. "These are my parents," Emily explained with a bittersweet smile. "This photo was taken in front of the orphanage where I grew up." Hope's eyes opened in surprise. You grew up in an orphanage too?" Emily nodded. "Yes, sweetie. My parents adopted me when I was about your age. That's why James and I wanted to adopt. We know how important it is to have a family that loves you." This revelation created a new bond between Hope and Emily. The girl began asking questions about Emily's experience, finding comfort and hope in her adoptive mother's stories. Meanwhile, Brave had become an integral part of the family. He wasn't just Hope's faithful guardian, but had also developed a strong bond with Emily and James. Daily walks to the park had become a family ritual, filled with laughter and games. One day during one of these walks, something unexpected happened. While playing fetch, Brave suddenly became alert, his ears perked up and his body tense. Before anyone could react, he ran towards some nearby bushes. Hope, Emily and James followed him concerned. What they found left them breathless. Brave was standing protectively in front of a small kitten, meowing weakly. "Oh, poor thing," exclaimed Emily, approaching carefully. "It seems to be abandoned." Hope looked at the kitten with a mixture of compassion and understanding. "It's alone like I was," she whispered. James and Emily exchanged a look, recognizing the opportunity presenting itself. "What do you say we take it home?" James suggested. "We can care for it until we find a family to adopt it." Hope's eyes lit up at the idea. "Can we keep it ourselves?" she asked hopefully. Emily smiled, moved by her daughter's compassion. "I think that will depend on how it gets along with Brave, but we can try, right?" So the family returned home with a temporary new member. Watching Hope care for the kitten with such dedication filled Emily and James with pride. It was a testament to how much their daughter had healed and grown in the past few months. That night, as Hope prepared for bed, with Brave at her feet and the kitten curled up in a nearby basket, she felt a peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. She looked around at the room that now truly felt like hers, at the colorful drawings on the walls, at her faithful animal companions, and smiled. "Good night, Brave," she whispered, patting the dog's head. "Good night, little one," she added, looking at the kitten. "We're home." With those words, Hope fell asleep, her heart full of love and gratitude. Outside, New York City continued its nighttime rhythm, but inside this home, a family that had been formed by love and compassion rested in peace, ready to face together any challenge the future might bring. Autumn had arrived in New York City, tinting the trees in golden and reddish hues. In the Thompson apartment, Hope sat at her desk, concentrated on a drawing. Her strokes, once timid and unsure, now flowed with confidence across the paper. Brave dozed at her feet while the small kitten, which they had decided to name Star, played with a paper ball nearby. Emily entered the room, smiling at the scene. "Hope, sweetie," she called softly, "it's time to get ready. Today is your first day at the new school, remember?" Hope looked up, a mixture of excitement and nervousness reflected in her eyes. Several months had passed since her adoption, and Emily and James felt she was ready to take the next step, integrating into a traditional school. "What if they don't like me?" asked Hope, her voice barely a whisper. Emily approached, kneeling beside the girl. "Oh, sweetie," she said tenderly, "you're a wonderful girl. I'm sure you'll make friends in no time. Besides, remember that Brave will be waiting for you when you return home." Those words seemed to calm Hope. She nodded, taking a deep breath before getting up to prepare. The journey to school was quiet, with Hope clutching James's hand as they walked. At the entrance, they were met by the principal, a kind-looking woman who welcomed them. "Hello, Hope," the principal greeted with a warm smile. "We're very happy to have you with us. Would you like me to show you your classroom?" Hope looked at Emily and James, seeking reassurance. Both nodded with words of encouragement. With a final hug to her parents, Hope followed the principal into the school. The hours passed slowly for Emily and James, who anxiously awaited the end of the school day. When it was finally time to pick up Hope, they found her with a small smile on her face. "How was your day, my girl?" asked Emily, hugging her. "Good," Hope replied. "My teacher is very nice, and I met a girl named Sarah. She lent me her colors." Emily and James's hearts filled with joy to see that their daughter had taken this important step successfully. Days turned into weeks, and Hope increasingly adapted to her new school routine. Her friendship with Sarah grew, and soon the two girls became inseparable. Brave, faithful as always, patiently waited each afternoon for Hope's return, greeting her with enthusiasm. However, the peace they had managed to build was about to be tested. One night, while the family was having dinner, a deafening thunder shook the sky, marking the beginning of a fierce storm. Hope immediately tensed, memories of that night on the street flooding her mind. Emily and James exchanged worried looks. They knew storms still triggered traumatic memories in Hope. Brave, sensing the girl's anxiety, approached her, resting his head in her lap. "It's okay, my love," said James in a reassuring voice. "We're here with you. You're safe." Hope nodded, but her eyes remained large and frightened. Suddenly, a terrifying creak resonated throughout the apartment, followed by a blackout that plunged everything into darkness. "Dad!" "Mom!" Hope cried out, panic evident in her voice. "Stay calm, sweetie," Emily responded, moving carefully in the darkness to reach her daughter. "It's just a power outage. James, can you find the flashlights?" James headed to the kitchen, stumbling slightly in the darkness. While searching for the flashlights, a strange noise caught his attention. It came from the kitchen window, which led to the fire escape. "Emily," he called in a tense voice, "I think there's someone on the fire escape." Fear seized Hope, who clung to Emily with all her might. Brave, alerted by the tension in the environment, began to growl softly, positioning himself protectively in front of Hope and Emily. James, gathering his courage, approached the window with a flashlight. When he illuminated the exterior, he saw a soaked figure trying to open the window. For a moment, panic invaded him, but then he recognized the frightened face of their upstairs neighbor. "Tom!" James exclaimed, quickly opening the window. "What's happening?" The man, shivering from cold and fear, clumsily entered the kitchen. "I'm so sorry for scaring you," he said between gasps. "There was a fire in my apartment caused by lightning. The fire blocked the exit and I had to use the fire escape. Emily, who had approached with Hope, gasped in surprise. My God, are you hurt? Tom shook his head. I'm fine, thanks, but we need to alert the firefighters and the rest of the neighbors. The fire could spread. The next minutes were a whirlwind of activity. James went out to the hallway to alert other residents, while Emily called emergency services. Hope, overcoming her own fear, helped search for blankets and dry clothes for Tom. Brave, meanwhile, remained alert, moving between family members like a silent guardian. His constant presence was a comforting reminder of safety amid the chaos. Soon, the sound of sirens filled the air. The firefighters arrived quickly, controlling the fire before it could spread to other apartments. The neighbors gathered in the street, some in pajamas, others soaked by the rain that continued to fall. In the midst of the confusion, Hope remained surprisingly calm. She watched attentively as Emily and James helped coordinate the neighbors, offering comfort and support. At that moment, something changed within her. The fear she had initially felt transformed into a determination to be strong, to help as her parents did. Mom, Hope called, gently pulling on Emily's sleeve. Can I go get more blankets for the neighbors? Emily looked at her daughter with a mixture of surprise and pride. Of course, sweetheart. That would be very kind of you. With Brave following closely, Hope went up to the apartment and returned with arms full of blankets. She distributed them among the neighbors, offering shy but sincere smiles. As the night progressed and the emergency calmed down, the family returned to their apartment. They were tired, but there was a new sense of unity between them. They had faced a crisis together and emerged stronger. Sitting in the living room, with candles softly illuminating the space, Emily hugged Hope. I'm very proud of you, my girl, she said with emotion. You were very brave tonight. Hope smiled, feeling warmth in her heart. I learned from you, she responded softly. And from Brave, she added, petting the dog resting at her feet. James joined the hug, forming a protective circle around Hope. We're a team, he said firmly. Together we can weather any storm. At that moment, while the rain continued falling outside, Hope realized something important. The fear that had once paralyzed her had now transformed into strength. She had a family that loved her, a safe home, and the ability to help others. She was no longer the scared girl from the streets. She was a loved child, capable of facing challenges with courage. That night, when they finally went to bed, Hope hugged Brave tightly. Thank you for always being with me, she whispered in his ear. The dog responded with a soft bark, as if perfectly understanding her words. As sleep overtook her, Hope thought about everything that had changed in her life. The storms, which were once a source of terror, now reminded her of her own strength and her family's love. With a smile on her lips, she fell asleep, secure in the knowledge that, whatever happened, she would never be alone again. Time had flown since that stormy night. Spring had arrived in New York City, bringing with it an air of renewal and hope. Hope, who was now almost 8 years old, had transformed into a cheerful and self-confident girl. Her room, once a new and strange space, was now filled with colorful drawings, family photos, and memories of her adventures with Emily, James, Brave, and Star. One Saturday afternoon, while the family was enjoying a picnic in the nearby park, Emily received a phone call that would change the course of their lives. The call was from Sister Mary at St. Michael's home. "Emily," said the nun with an excited voice, "something extraordinary has happened. A woman came to the orphanage looking for information about a girl who was left here almost 2 years ago. We believe she might be Hope's grandmother." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She looked at Hope, who was playing happily with Brave, unaware of the conversation that could alter her world once again. Are you sure?" Emily asked, her voice barely a whisper. "We can't be completely sure without a DNA test," Sister Mary responded. But the description she gave of the girl and the circumstances matched perfectly with Hope's story. Emily thanked Sister Mary for the information and hung up the phone, her mind spinning with the implications of this news. James, noticing his wife's worried expression, approached. "What's wrong, love?" he asked, taking her hand. Emily told him about the call in a low voice, both watching Hope as they talked. The girl was laughing, chasing Brave with a ball, her dark hair waving in the wind. "What are we going to do?" James asked, concern evident in his voice. Emily took a deep breath. "We have to tell her," she responded. "Hope deserves to know the truth and to have the opportunity to meet her biological family if she wishes." That night, after dinner, Emily and James sat Hope down on the living room sofa. Brave, sensing the tension in the environment, lay at the girl's feet, as he always did when he sensed she needed him. "Hope, my love," Emily began gently, "we received a call from St. Michael's home today. Someone has gone there looking for you." Hope's eyes opened in surprise. "Looking for me? Who?" James took the girl's hand in his. "They think it might be your grandmother, sweetie, your mom's mother." A heavy silence fell over the room. Hope looked at her adoptive parents, then at Brave and back to Emily and James. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions and questions. But you're my family now," she finally said, her voice trembling slightly. Emily hugged her tightly. "Of course we are, my girl. Nothing will change that. But we thought you might like to meet your grandmother, to learn more about your biological family." Hope remained thoughtful for a moment. "Can I think about it?" she finally asked. "Of course you can, sweetie," James responded. "Take all the time you need." The following days were a whirlwind of emotions for the entire family. Hope alternated between moments of curiosity and excitement at the idea of meeting her grandmother and periods of anxiety and fear of change. Emily and James did everything possible to support her, constantly assuring her of their unconditional love. Finally, a week later, Hope made her decision. "I want to meet her," she said during breakfast, her voice firm despite the evident nervousness in her eyes. "But can you come with me?" Emily and James exchanged a look of relief and pride. "Of course we can, my love," Emily responded. "We'll be with you every step of the way." The day of the meeting came sooner than expected. St. Michael's home had arranged a controlled meeting with Sister Mary and a social worker present. Hope, dressed in her favorite dress and with Brave by her side, they had insisted that the dog be part of this crucial moment, waited nervously in a small meeting room. When the door opened, revealing an older woman with the same dark hair and expressive eyes as Hope, time seemed to stand still. The woman, whose name was Margaret, gasped when she saw the girl. "Hope," she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. You're identical to your mother." Hope, clutching Emily's hand, took a small step forward. "Hello," she said shyly. What followed was an emotional and sometimes difficult conversation. Margaret explained how she had been searching for her daughter and granddaughter for years, how a communication error had led her to believe that both had passed away. When she finally discovered the truth, she dedicated herself body and soul to finding Hope. "Your mother, she loved you so much," said Margaret, her voice broken with emotion. "She never wanted to leave you, but the circumstances—" Hope listened attentively, her hand never letting go of Emily's, while James maintained a comforting hand on her shoulder. Brave, faithful as always, remained alert by her side, ready to offer comfort at any moment. As the conversation progressed, it became clear that Margaret had no intention of separating Hope from her adoptive family. "I can see how much they love you," she said, looking at Emily and James with gratitude. "I just want to be part of your life, if you'll let me." Hope looked at her adoptive parents, seeking their support. Both nodded with warm smiles. I would like that," Hope finally responded. "I want to get to know you more, Grandma." The following weeks were an adjustment period for everyone. Margaret gradually integrated into the family's life, visiting regularly and sharing stories about Hope's mother. To everyone's surprise, even Brave seemed to accept the new family member, allowing Margaret to pet him during her visits. One afternoon, while Hope was showing Margaret her recent drawings, the grandmother pulled something from her purse. "I have something for you, my dear," she said, handing her a small photo album. "These are pictures of your mother when she was little. I thought you might like to have them." Hope took the album reverently, her eyes shining with emotion. As she turned the pages, seeing her mother's face for the first time, she felt a mixture of joy and sadness. Emily, who was watching the scene, approached and hugged Hope from behind. "It's a precious gift," she said softly. "Now you have another piece of your story." That night, after Margaret left, Hope sat on her bed, surrounded by Emily, James, Brave, and Star. While stroking Brave's fur, she looked at her adoptive parents with eyes full of love and gratitude. "Thank you," she said simply, "for everything." Emily and James hugged her, forming a warm family nest. "We love you, Hope," said James. "Always." As she prepared for bed, Hope reflected on the incredible journey her life had been, from the loneliness of the streets to the love of a family, from loss to reunion. She looked at the photo album on her nightstand, then at Brave curled up at her feet, and finally at the family photo with Emily and James on the wall. Her heart felt full, overflowing with love for this family that fate had gifted her. With Brave by her side and the love of Emily, James, and now Margaret surrounding her, Hope realized that her life, once marked by sadness, was now full of hope and possibilities. With a smile on her lips, Hope fell asleep, dreaming of the bright future that awaited her, knowing that no matter what came, she would never be alone again. The sun rose over New York City, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. In the Thompson apartment, Hope, now 10 years old, was slowly waking up. Brave, faithful as always, raised his head from his place at the foot of the bed, his tail thumping softly against the sheets in a morning greeting. "Good morning, Brave," whispered Hope, stroking the dog's head. Star, the cat they had rescued years ago, stretched lazily on the windowsill, basking in the dawn light. Today wasn't just any day. It was the anniversary of Hope's adoption, a day that the family had decided to celebrate each year as their family day. As she dressed, Hope reflected on how much her life had changed over these years. Leaving her room, the aroma of hot chocolate and freshly baked bread filled the air. In the kitchen, she found Emily and James preparing breakfast, their faces lit up with warm smiles. "Happy Family Day, my love," exclaimed Emily, hugging her daughter. James joined the hug, forming a warm family knot. "We have a surprise for you after breakfast," he said with a wink. While they ate, conversation flowed easily, filled with laughter and memories of the past years. Hope animatedly told them about her school project, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "And the teacher says my drawing might be chosen for the school's art exhibition," she concluded proudly. "That's wonderful, sweetie," said Emily, her voice full of pride. "You've worked so hard on your drawings." After breakfast, James announced it was time for the surprise. With her eyes blindfolded, Hope was guided to the living room, Brave following closely behind. "Ready?" asked James. At Hope's nod, he removed the blindfold. In front of her, hung on the main wall of the living room, was a beautiful mural. It was an artistic representation of their family. Emily, James, Hope, Brave, and Star in the center, surrounded by images representing key moments in their life together. In one corner, subtly integrated, was the figure of Margaret, her biological grandmother. "Oh," Hope exhaled, her eyes filling with tears. It's beautiful. We made it together," explained Emily. "James and I worked on the design, and then we invited Margaret to help us with some details." Hope traced the mural with her fingers, stopping at each image: the day of her adoption, her first day of school, the stormy night, the day they found Star, her reunion with Margaret. "It's our story," she said softly. "That's right," confirmed James. "We wanted to create something that represented our journey together, all the moments that have made us the family we are today." At that moment, the doorbell rang. It was Margaret coming to join the celebration. Upon entering and seeing the mural, her eyes filled with emotion. "It's beautiful," she said, hugging Hope. "A perfect representation of this wonderful family." The morning passed with laughter, stories, and plans for the future. Hope shared her dreams of becoming an artist and perhaps someday helping other children who, like her, needed a home and a family. After lunch, they decided to take a walk in the park, where Hope and Brave used to play when they first came home. As they walked, Hope suddenly stopped, her gaze fixed on a point in the distance. "What's wrong, sweetie?" asked Emily, noticing her daughter's serious expression. Hope pointed toward a park bench. There, a small girl sat alone, her sad and lost face painfully reminding Hope of her own past. Without saying a word, Hope approached the girl, Brave following closely. Emily, James, and Margaret watched in silence, moved by Hope's compassion. "Hi," Hope said softly, sitting next to the girl. "My name is Hope. Are you okay?" The girl looked up, her eyes filled with tears. I got lost," she whispered. Hope felt her heart constrict. She remembered perfectly that feeling of fear and loneliness. Gently, she took the girl's hand. "Don't worry," she said with a reassuring smile. "We'll help you find your family. Look, those are my parents and my grandmother. And this is Brave, my dog. He'll help us find your parents." The girl, who introduced herself as Lucy, seemed to relax a bit at Hope's kindness and Brave's reassuring presence. Emily and James approached, offering their help to search for Lucy's parents. As they walked through the park, Hope didn't let go of Lucy's hand, telling her stories to keep her calm. Brave walked beside them, his presence a source of comfort for both girls. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, they heard shouts of, "Lucy! Lucy!" A couple was running toward them, their faces a mixture of relief and concern. "Mom! Dad!" Lucy cried out, running toward them. The reunion was emotional, filled with hugs and tears of joy. Lucy's parents, between thank yous, explained how they had gotten separated in the crowd during a park festival. "Thank you for taking care of our daughter," said Lucy's mother, addressing Hope. "You're a very special girl." Hope smiled, feeling warmth in her heart. "I was lost once too," she said softly. "But I found a family who loved me and took care of me. I wanted to do the same for Lucy." Emily and James, watching the scene, felt their hearts swell with pride. Their scared little girl had become a compassionate and brave young woman. That night, back at home, the family gathered in the living room, the new mural presiding over the gathering. Hope, curled up between Emily and James, with Brave at her feet and Star in her lap, looked around with a smile of contentment. "Thank you," she said softly, "for giving me a home, a family, and the opportunity to help others." Emily kissed her daughter's forehead. "You've given us much more, my love, you've taught us the true meaning of love and family." James nodded, adding, "And together we'll keep growing and loving, no matter what the future holds." Margaret, sitting nearby, smiled with tears in her eyes. "Your mother would be so proud of you, Hope, and I'm grateful to be part of this beautiful family." As night fell over New York City, the Thompson family remained united, each reflecting on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. Hope, the girl who was once alone and scared, was now surrounded by love with a bright future ahead. In her heart, Hope knew that no matter what challenges might come, she would face the future with courage and love, because now she had something she once thought forever lost: a family, a home, and an unbreakable hope.